Hi everybody, today I have a new Touchdesigner tutorial. It's going to be a little bit different from the last video. We're just going to go over this kind of organic glass tube shape thing that I made. And it's got a couple of interesting techniques that I hope you guys can use in your own projects. Alright, let's get started. To get started on our shape, I started with a circle SOP, and I want to turn this into into a top. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to add a null, create a SOP2, then add another null, and from here I'm going to make a chop2. And we want all three channels of our RGB data. So I'm going to change the data format in the chop2 to RGB. All right, to get started transforming our circle, I'm going to, from this chop2, add a noise. And in this noise, I'm going to set the offset to 0. Oh, but first, make sure in your chop2 you have your pixel format set to 32-bit float. In the noise, I'm going to leave it pretty much as is, except for setting the offset to 0 and upping the amplitude to 1. And then from here, I'm going to add a contrast. So add a level. And for this contrast, I'm going to want to control it with some audio. So what I'm going to do is I made a custom device that's just a simpler version of the audio analysis unit here. And all it does is split the channel into high, low, and mid channels, and also gets the speeds for the high, low, and mid channels. So I'm just going to create two nulls here. I'm going to call this one level, and this one speed. And I'm also going to add an audio file in, and I'm going to add an audio device out. All right. And I'm just going to bypass that for now because I find it a little bit distracting. But you can see here that we get the speed for our mid, low, and high channels, as well as the overall speed. And we also get the peaks for our high, mid, and low, and level. And first, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to drive our contrast with the high channel. Why not? So I'm going to make this the active viewer and then drag the reference and stop reference. And you can see it's just making our image gray right now. So I'm going to add 2. And I'm also going to multiply the signal a little bit so it's a little bit stronger. Maybe I'll add 1, and I'll multiply this by 10. So now you can see that the contrast comes through a little more. And this is just going to make the fall off between points more intense. All right. Then from this noise, I'm going to add another noise. And in this noise, I am going to set the offset to 0. And I'm going to turn monochrome off. And then in the output, I'm going to do just noise, because this is going to be an overlay in a feedback loop we're going to create with this noise. So I'm going to set this amplitude to 2 and leave everything else as is. And I do want both of these noises to move with our music. So with this first noise, I'm going to, in the transform, drag one of our speeds onto translate, and the same thing in our other noise onto our Z translate. All right, and to finish up what I'm doing with this noise, I'm going to get a threshold, because I only want some of our points coming through. And then a multiply, and drag these into there. And now you can see it's only letting certain more intense signals through. All right. And now to continue where we left off up here, I'm going to add another level. I want to add a feedback. And from this feedback, I'm going to add another level. And in here, I'm going to, in the post, set the opacity to 0.99. And now to finish this and bring it all together, I'm going to add a comp and set our operation to over, and drag the first level into the comp and the multiply into the comp. And we want to make sure this first level is on the bottoms and our multiply is on the top. Like that. So it should be multiply, level 2, level 1. And now that this is done, I'm going to drag this onto our feedback. And now our feedback loop is done. So now that our feedback loop's complete, we want to turn this back into renderable geometry. So I'm going to add a null. And from that null, I'm going to get a top 2. Whoops. Another null. And then a chop 2 from our null. And it's giving us an error right now because TX, TY, and TZ aren't found. So in our top 2, I'm going to rename red to TX, green to TY, and blue to TZ. And I'm going to delete the alpha channel because we don't need it. All right, and you can see now that we get this interesting sort of organic jumping shape in our SOP. This is a little too angular for what I want. And an easy way to fix that is go over to your circle SOP and up the divisions. And I'm going to set mine to 200. And there we go. It's a little bit smoother now. Make sure this, yeah, okay. All right. And that'll give us more variance in our shape as well. It's still pretty angular, and a way you can fix that as well, we can go into yeah, our level here. I can lower this a bit, make this times 5 maybe. That seems to have helped a little bit. Maybe bring up the soften a little bit in here so our transitions are not as harsh. And one more thing you can do if there's a lot of angularity with your chops and you don't want that is in between this comp and your null, you can add a blur. And that's going to basically interpolate. You can see it'll interpolate the positions here. I'm going to lower the blur on here a little bit to like a 4 because the resolution's not that high. All right, that looks good to me. All right, now that we have this this SOP, I'm gonna add a translate or transform because I want some more movement in here. And I'm gonna drive this transform with our audio. So I'm going to get a select chop and a limit. And in this select, I'm going to grab our speeds chop. And in this limit, I want to have it loop between 0 and 360. So when this hits 360, it'll loop all the way back around to 0 in every respective channel. All right, now that I have this, I'm going to drive our rotation with our low, mid, and high. So this will move as the music keeps going. All right. So from this transform, I'm going to add a null. And now I'm going to make the render pipeline. It's very simple. Add a geometry. And I'm going to use a line material here. Drag the line onto the geometry and click material. I'm going to set my distance near to 0, distance far to 10, width near to 10, and our width far to 5. And set both line colors to white. And to finish this up, I'm going to add a camera. All right, that looks good. And then add a render. And from that render, I'm going to add an out and make that our active viewer. All right. What I like to do as well, because I like to use the perform function in Touchdesigner, and I want parity between my render resolutions and my my output resolutions. So what I'm going to do is under parameters here, I'm going to go to common, and I'm going to right click and open parent parameters, and width I'm going to bind to my resolution, and height I'm going to bind to my resolution, or my vertical resolution. So now if I tap U, we go over to the overall project. If I change the resolution here, it changes in the project as well, which is important if you're changing your resolutions a lot, which I sometimes like to experiment with. And it's just a good habit to get into, especially if you're performing. This can change if you have more outputs, but it scales as you need it, I suppose. All right, now I'm going to start making this shape a little bit more organic. So I'm going to add a blur and make the sample step 0.5, and increase the filter size a fair bit. and then add a threshold. And you can already see the intersections between the line is starting to get a little more rounded than they normally would. I bypass these and bring them back. And then we're going to do this one more time. Get another blur and another threshold. I'm going to lower the threshold on here a little bit, so it's a little bit more intense. So I'm going to make it about 0.1. Same with this guy. And blur it a little bit more. So now we have this thick line here. And now I'm going to make a feedback loop. Real simple one. So I'm going to add a feedback, a level, and in this level I'm going to make the opacity just 0.7 for now, but we're going to drive this with the audio in a bit. And then I'm going to add a blur. And then a comp. Oops. And set this to over. And drag our comp onto our feedback. And after that, I'm going to make a threshold. All right. And lower this. So now it looks kind of like it's dragging itself behind or it's more like a liquid, which I think looks super cool. And I did get this idea from PPP Panic, and you guys should totally check her out. I will link her channel in the description. She's how I started learning Touchdesigner, so definitely recommend her. I will add another blur in here and leave it as is. Now, I'm going to add one more blur, and I'm going to make the filter size really big. And I'm going to add a lookup because I want some color in here. And then a ramp coming from said lookup. And I'm going to add some pink and some yellow and some blue. So you get kind of that Fleer neon look. Kind of looks like. And now to get those tube shapes, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to add a slope. I'm going to up the strength to 2. And from here, I'm going to add a displace. Not DirectX out. Whoops. A displace. And in between here and the slope, I'm going to add a blur. Set that blur to maximum. And drag our displace over our out, and then drag that in there. And now you get that super cool glass tube look. And it kind of looks neon almost. And I think it looks fantastic. All right, and now to drive this level with our, whoops, I went too far away. to drive this opacity with our music over here, I'm going to grab the mid channel, and obviously it's a little dark right now, so I'm going to add 0.7, maybe a little too intense, so I'm going to add 0.5. Now you get more warping with this and as always, you can go through and modify a lot of these. Let's say I wanted some more harmonics in here. Now it's a lot more intense, or if I wanted to slow it down, maybe I want more harmonic gain. Lots of things to play with.